A killing near Vienna has put thousands of activists and asylum seekers from Chechnya on edge. They believe that the government in Grozny and Russian secret services are orchestrating events. Plus, they say it's not an isolated incident, pointing to dozens of suspicious murders over the last 15 years. Ryan Thompson has more.
Chechens in exile take to the streets near the Russian embassy in Vienna. Protests have been growing since the killing of a strident critic of Kremlin-backed Chechnya leader Ramzan Kadyrov over the weekend. Austrian authorities say the motive for the killing is unclear, but it could have been political. And yet it's renewed the fears for the safety of many Chechens living across Europe.
We have relatives in Chechnya. They're not as safe as us. Having said that, I can't say that we're safe in Europe either, because we've seen what happened to Asnor on Saturday evening.
Saturday's attack was the latest in a string of killings of Chechens who have a background in the anti-Russian insurgency. It was the fourth violent attack on Chechens living inside the European Union within the past year, 3 of which have ended in death. Austrian police have named the victim as 43-year-old Martin B., named locally as Anzor Umarov, who had given evidence in a 2017 murder case in Ukraine. In that case, a volunteer soldier who had been accused of plotting to murder the Russian President Vladimir Putin was injured in a shooting and his wife was killed. Police in Vienna also arrested 2 Russians from Chechnya over the fatal shooting of Martin B. Ryan Thompson, Euronews.
With more on this story, let's speak to Dominik Zagara, who is the executive director of the Russia watchdog organisation Open Caucus Media. Dominik, thanks very much for speaking with us here on Good Morning Europe. Is there any evidence that this string of attacks is part of a linked campaign?
It's definitely a linked campaign. There is no proof that this would be one of attacks. In January, we had the murder of Chechen refugee. Georgian citizen Hangoshvili was stabbed to death. All of them were somehow connected to either the secessionist movement in the 90s, were critics of the Chechen government, or Russia. And Russia and Chechnya have a long record of smashing all sorts of dissent by violent means.
Now, it seems this violence is being carried out with relative impunity. Has Chechnya's leadership done anything to try to calm the situation?
It's important to say that there is no clear distinction between the Russian government and the Chechen government. The Chechen leader, Ramzan Kadyrov, has free hand to conduct any sort of policy in Chechnya, but these policies are not uncoordinated with the Kremlin. Definitely the Kremlin knows about the killing of dissidents. They know about the killing of people suspected of being queer. Given the information from different investigations, there is no proof that these instances are in any way separate. Kadyrov hasn't done absolutely anything to calm the situation down, and the reign of terror continues.
I mean, it's important to note that the Russian consulate says it has no information about what's happened, and Kadyrov, although he's been accused multiple times of targeting political opponents, has denied that on multiple occasions. You said there about gay rights movements, the LGBTQ community, because it's not just political dissidents who are targeted. The LGBTQ community is also persecuted in Chechnya.
Yes, there is no queer rights movement in Chechnya, but there is an organized homophobic campaign of cleansing Chechnya of queer people. It's important to notice that not only people who are really queer are targeted, it's anyone who has any suspicion of being queer can be targeted. And this doesn't happen only in Chechnya. These people are also persecuted in the European Union.
Dominik Zagara joining us there from Tbilisi. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Still to